Please note that the content of this episode has explicit language and is not suitable for underage listeners.
Hi, I'm CJ and I've done phone sex for 23 years. Let's get started. I'm back. First off, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. I was away for a while and I got a little carried away. I just got carried away relaxing and now I'm back. So I hope the new year brings everybody what they're looking for. And in California, I hope that everyone is safe and doing well, the best they can. I've shied away from this subject for I think as long as I can. So I'm going to dive right into it. I recently received a chat message and it said, "Can you help me with my special needs?" My ears and thoughts perked up and I realized that I knew what this person wanted. These callers, some of them, certainly not all, I never say all, think that they're so clever when they ask questions like that. I had a feeling that I knew what he wanted. So instead of assuming what he wanted, I thought I'd ask. And I said, "What might that be?" His response was what I predicted in my head, of course, and it was, "What are your limits?" Shock and surprise. Now, as my listener, you may or may not know what he wants. I did. And so I had to choose how I wanted to say this, but I really don't mince words when it comes to what my limits are. And it also depends on my mood. But I come out strong and say, no underage, obviously. And I wasn't in the mood for a choking call. Yes, I get choking calls where people want to choke me while they're having sex. And so I have to sound like I'm choking myself. You can fake it, but you got to have realistic sounds. So that's what I said. I said no underage and no choking. And his response was exactly what I expected. He says, "You killed it." Period. Of course, I'm not new and he wanted an underage call. Again, I'm not surprised. And I knew that he would either respond, because sometimes they don't respond at all. They'll just realize, you said underage, you're not going to do it, I'm done. But he had to write, "You killed it." So I knew I wasn't going to get that call, and that was totally fine. Now, I've explained this to you a little bit in the past, but as you know, we do have rules, but we also have our own common sense, and I don't take underage calls. And we're not allowed to, as I've mentioned before. So this whole what are my limits thing is a test on their part to see what I will and will not talk about. And usually it's one or two things. An underage always is first. I would say the minority come back with, "That's not what I want." And they will go down a different path, like ass play or me being dominating or something like that. But for the most part, the limit thing is about being underage. Now, I've told you that there are times where a call will start. First of all, let me go back and say I appreciate the chat message, because knowing up front, both of us, what is expected, the both of us know what is expected or wanted, cuts out the whole "I'm going to call you and hang up on you" thing. Asking up front is really smart. It doesn't waste anybody's time. The caller isn't disappointed because they've already asked. There isn't any uncomfortableness on the phone. It can kind of get uncomfortable when they call and they're, hemming and hawing and kind of skirting around the issue. It's good that they ask up front. So if they don't send a chat and they just jump in and call and say that they're looking for underage, they'll say, "How old are you?" And I'll tell them my age. Sometimes they'll say, like again, I mentioned before, "Oh, well, I'm 60. So you being 37 is great." But that doesn't happen a lot. And in my mind, if you're going to ask me my age, I'm going to tell you what my age is. Now, when they start saying the whole you're younger thing, I'll go to 21. I'll even go to 18. But that's my limit. I think I've gone as low as 16, maybe once or twice, but that's very, very rare. Some guys talk so much that they don't listen to what you're saying. And they just keep going and going and going. And I don't have to say anything because I'll stop talking. And they don't realize it. And they'll just keep talking and talking until they pleasure themselves to the end. And they'll hang up. Other people will pay attention and realize I've stopped talking. If they're talking about underage, and they will hang up. I told you in the past, I try very hard not to hang up on anyone. I do try to correct them and say, "Well, I'm not that young." Or I'll say something because some people are very insistent upon the number. And I will say, "Well, we don't need a number, an age, I mean. But It's a number, and some want to hear that number. They want to hear single digit numbers, and I will not give that to them. It's all part of the fantasy, and I don't want to give that to them. They can get it from someone else, not me. I've told you many times the call will start one way and turn and go another way. And I've also told you that a lot of these women don't listen. They have their own agenda and they talk and they talk and they don't listen. But I listen and I pay attention to what these guys are saying and what they want and where the call is going. And if the call is going in a direction, whether it's underage or something else, I will get quiet, which is not optimal for phone sex, but I don't want to hang up. Now, there was a company at one time where we were, I don't want to use the word obligated, but we were encouraged to turn people in. If it's a fantasy and it goes nowhere, then it goes nowhere and it's in your head and I don't want to use words, but it's not right, right? I don't feel comfortable turning somebody in for making a phone call like that. But I did once and it didn't feel right, but that was the rule, so I did it. Limits are tricky, and I do get asked that, and it all depends on the night. But underage always comes first. And I've had people call me and ask instead of chat and ask, and they'll say, well, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you for your honesty. And they'll hang up or they'll just hang up. But there are times when people will say thank you. And I wish them luck. I don't want them to talk about it with anyone, but that I'm not in control with. I can't control what they do when I'm not talking to them. I can only control our conversation. Someone recently asked me if I thought that these men that have these fantasies of underage sex, if they do it in their real life, and I say, I don't think so, no, it's a fantasy. Of course, you watch documentaries and see things about people having fantasies and it turning into real life. I have no doubt that that has happened in the past with the callers that I have or the potential callers that I've had. These guys talking about underage sex, I don't believe that they go out and do it. I think it's in their head and it's a fantasy that they can shut their eyes and think about it. Maybe that's naive of me. I don't see myself as being naive, so I'd like to think that it's just on the phone. If they can get it, I don't even know if they can find someone who will do it. I'm sure there is someone out there who will, but that is not me. And again, like I've talked about morphing the calls, morphing into something else. Someone will call me. We will be having phone sex, and all of a sudden I've gotten younger. How did that happen? Well, they want to trick me, and I stop talking, or I say no, or I'll say something, and sometimes they hear me and they hang up, or they go back to what we were doing, and sometimes they just hang up and click, they're gone. So they've gotten part of it, but they haven't gotten all of it. They haven't gotten all the way yet because the way they're going to get there is by being with someone younger. So let me go back just a little bit and say to close out the thought of, do I think that they're doing it in real life? My answer to that is no. I'd like to hope not. I'd like to hope that they get it out of their system by talking to someone on the phone, and that's it. I think a lot of people have fantasies that they would never do in real life with real partners. I do know of some callers who have told me that they have fantasies that they've never done and will never do with their partners. And so that goes along with the whole underage thing. I would like to hope and think that these people just make calls. I think they're testing the caller. I think I think they're testing the phone sex operators to see how far they can push them. Some people do like to push limits, and so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm hoping that that is true. My limits are vast. I don't want to do dominatrix stuff. I don't want to do underage, like I said. I don't want to do family calls. I do stepsister calls. I do stepmother calls, but I don't do brother, sister, father, daughter, which goes into what I said before in a different podcast about the daddy word, right? I can be 37, someone can be 60. I keep saying that. I can call them daddy, and that's okay. It's when it changes and they want me to be younger and be their real daughter. I have to navigate it in such a way where I'm not their real daughter or their daughter's friends. I'm not underage. It takes a lot of paying attention and the nuance of where the call is going. Callers can be very tricky. They can be very sneaky in turning a call, like I say, morphing a call into something else. I need to navigate it in such a way where I'm not their real daughter. I'm not underage. It takes a lot of paying attention. I can make the adjustment, and sometimes it's very subtle. I need to make an adjustment. I really do enjoy the calls, but you really have to be on your game. And these people, not all, of course, but there is a small segment of people where you can't let them get away with what they want to get away with, at least not with me. They can do it with someone else, but not with me. And I'm very pleasant about it. I'm not finger pointy or judgy with them. I just say, hey, it's not something I will do. And they can decide for themselves if they want to call someone else or change their role play fantasy or hang up or whatever it is, wherever we are in that moment. It's our job to make the caller happy, but we're not allowed to talk about certain things. And I will not make a caller happy at any cost. There is a cost to be paid, and they need to be within my boundaries, within the company's boundaries. I don't always play by the rules. I can go outside the lines, but it all depends on how it's done. And if it's super deceitful, then no. If it's kind of subtle, there are times, I will admit, there are times where I've gotten caught up in a call. I was paying attention, but somehow I ended up being a family member or underage. It happens super rarely. Probably I can count on one hand, but I've caught it and I kind of jerk my head back going, whoa, how did that happen? You know, I was paying attention, or did I blink or fall asleep? I don't know, but it can sneak up on you, and you really have to be vigilant and stand strong. I've had a couple calls in the last few months where I thought it was the company checking, doing a spot check. And I don't think they do, but they might, where someone will call and say, hey, I want an underage call. Or they won't be that outward. It'll be very subtle. And I start to feel very uncomfortable, like I'm being tested. And I'll be like, no, 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 no. And so I get a very queasy feeling like someone's testing me to see if I will follow the rules. It's kind of a weird and eerie feeling. So I just have to be on my game and pay attention, like I said. So I've mentioned before, some of the other things we can't talk about is rape fantasies and bestiality. I've not had either one of those calls in several years, which is great because I don't like turning down calls. When I get a call, I'm excited because I'm getting a call, but when it's a call that I can't take and it's click, they hang up, click, click, click. So it's interesting. There are nights where every single call will be 5 minutes. There are nights where every single call will be 20 minutes. And then there's a night where every single call is something I can't talk about. It goes in waves. It's really weird. It's like they all get together and said, tonight we're going to talk about this. And it's like, no, 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 no. Can I get a call where I can actually speak? Like, it is the most bizarre thing. There were times, like I've told you in the past, where every single call will be an adult baby or every single call will be about spanking. And it's like, how did that happen? Why is tonight that topic? And so, recently there have been nights with certain topics. It's really bizarre. The choking thing, like I mentioned earlier, I got to put my hand around my throat or I just got to sound like I'm choking. It's really difficult. Some of these calls are not easy. Thank goodness, like I've said before, I'm not live on camera because that was really difficult when I did that. And to not make a face when someone says they want you to be underage or do a family or choking, it's tough. It's really tough. And I've said it before, and I commend the girls who do that, or women, I should say, who do that. Thank goodness it is not me. To sum it all up, I know I've been everywhere and around here, sorry. Someone asked about this limits thing. I really do know what they mean. If they say, hey, what are your limits? I know what they mean. I'm really disappointed that I'm going to lose the call or that potential call, but I need to protect myself. I need to do the right thing and not have that conversation. Let someone else do it. I appreciate the heads up when they chat with me and don't just call me. I really appreciate that. I need to be honest about my limits, and my limits are very few. They rarely come up with something that I won't do or that I've not heard of. And there's another limit that a friend of mine said she has, and that is ass play. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll do ass play. I don't care. I've done it in my real life, and to be quite honest, there are other things that I'd rather not do. Ass play is easy. It's fine. It's not a problem. If you have any questions about limits or underage or anything, I'd be happy to hear from you. It's a very difficult subject and one that is not taken lightly by me at all. I don't call the callers names. I don't tell them that they're disgusting or rude or need help or whatever the case may be. I want them to talk to whomever they can talk about it, but it isn't me. And I've said that many times here. It's not me. It should be a no-no, but I'm not the judge of that. And if it ends up being a no one, then they will probably make a call and try to do it in a sneaky way. Like I said, they can be very sneaky sometimes because that's what some of them do. Like I said, they try to sneak it in somehow. And if you're a woman doing phone sex and you're not paying attention, they will sneak it in. They will. Trust me, they will do it. The underage calls are not frequent. They are the exception to the rule, and that is a good thing. I do a lot of role plays. Most of my calls are role plays. I mean, some of it is just get me off, but I do a lot of role plays and it's not underage. And it isn't really family either. It's a lot of, like I've mentioned in the past, there's a lot of cuckolding stuff that keeps popping up over and over again. There's a lot of edging lately, lots of edging. And so the underage thing just popped up, and the way he said it was what prompted this podcast. I wanted you to know that there are other things that I, don't talk about, but this is something I thought I'd bring up just so that you all know that underage is out there. I don't do it. I've harped on it enough. Thank you for listening, because I wanted to be very clear that, yeah, I get these types of calls, but no, I don't take them. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen, everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Again, Happy New Year. Please reach out to me with your questions, your comments, even concerns at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. New episodes will drop now every Monday. Check me out on Facebook at CJ's Podcast and Instagram and TikTok at Phone Queen 1. If you're listening on YouTube, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new podcast is dropped. If you have any suggestions and anything you want me to talk about, let me know. I will happily do so. Until next time, stay sexy.